Welcome to SciFi Humanity. Imagine a classroom filled with aliens from across the galaxy, their curiosity piqued by Earth's most unexpected guests. Today, we're diving into a fascinating event where Deathworlders, humans, take a bold step to showcase their wild, untamed companions to an audience of extraterrestrials. How do these fearsome creatures and their surprising bonds with humans shake the very foundation of interstellar perceptions? What happens when Earth's dangerous animals become ambassadors of connection and wonder? Stick around as we uncover the astonishing reactions and heartfelt moments that unfold when wild meets wise in the most unusual of classrooms. Wait, you want us to do what now? Commander Sarah Chen's voice dripped with sarcasm as she stared at the holographic image of Admiral Zeke's. His mandibles twitched in what the crew had learned was the Arcturian version of a smirk. It's simple, Commander. The Admiral's voice crackled through the comm system. The Galactic Council is hosting a cultural exchange event, and Earth has been invited to participate in the Companion Species Showcase. Sarah pinched the bridge of her nose, a gesture that always fascinated the alien crew. Let me get this straight. You want us, the so-called scary Deathworlders, who half the galaxy thinks eat babies for breakfast, to bring our pets to some alien show and tell. Precisely. Admiral Zeke's mandibles clicked with excitement. It's an opportunity to improve interspecies relations and show that humans aren't just bloodthirsty warriors from a planet where everything tries to kill them. Right, Sarah said, voice thick with sarcasm, because nothing says we come in peace like introducing a bunch of aliens to Earth's apex predators. This will go so well. The Admiral's compound eyes glittered with amusement. Your sarcasm is noted, Commander. But remember, this is a direct order from Galactic Command. Plus, think of the comedic potential. Sarah groaned, knowing she'd lost the battle. Fine. But when this turns into an intergalactic disaster, I'm blaming you. Duly noted, Admiral Zeke's chittered. Oh, and Commander, try to have fun. The hologram flickered out, leaving Sarah to face her crew, who were barely hiding their grins. All right, you lot, she sighed. Looks like we're going to a pet show. Any volunteers? The room erupted in excited shouts, laughter, and what sounded suspiciously like a bark from the engine room. Sarah shook her head. This was going to be a very long mission. 2 weeks later, Sarah found herself backstage at the Galactic Cultural Exchange Center, surrounded by her team and their pets. The chatter of excited alien species drifted in from the main auditorium. Remind me why I agreed to this again, Sarah muttered, adjusting her uniform for the millionth time. Dr. Raj Patel, the team's xenobiologist, grinned as he cradled a suspiciously quiet cat carrier. Because, beneath that tough exterior, you're a softie who can't resist a good laugh. I'll show you tough exterior, Sarah grumbled, but there was no real heat in her words. Despite her doubts, Sarah couldn't help but feel a little excited. If nothing else, the aliens' reactions were bound to be entertaining. Their light-hearted chatter was cut short by the booming voice of the announcer. And next up, we have the delegation from Earth. Please welcome our Deathworld friends and their pets. The word pets was spoken with a strange mix of fear and curiosity, making Sarah snort. She turned to her team with a smirk. All right, folks, it's showtime. Let's try not to start any wars, okay? With a collective deep breath and a suspicious meow from Dr. Raj Patel's carrier, the human delegation walked onto the stage. The auditorium fell into dead silence. Thousands of alien eyes and a few other sensory organs were locked on them with a mix of anticipation and fear. Sarah stepped up to the microphone, with Rex, her German shepherd, sitting obediently by her side. She cleared her throat, took a quick glance at the audience, and decided to jump right in. Greetings, members of the Galactic community. We, the terrifying Deathworlders from the nightmare planet Earth, have come to present our most fierce, most vicious companions for your viewing pleasure. A ripple of nervous murmurs swept through the crowd. Sarah fought back a grin and continued. I'm sure you're expecting monstrous creatures with razor-sharp claws, venomous fangs, and an insatiable hunger for blood. She gestured dramatically to Rex, who, as if on cue, flopped onto his back, tongue lolling out, begging for a belly rub. This fearsome beast, Sarah said with mock seriousness, is known on Earth as a dog, specifically a German shepherd. As you can see, he's absolutely terrifying. The audience seemed caught between laughing or running for the exits. Sarah took it as a good sign and pressed on. Rex here is a descendant of wolves, which were once apex predators on our planet. We humans, in our infinite wisdom, took these dangerous, efficient hunters and thought, you know what? Let's make them our best friends. To demonstrate, Sarah knelt down and gave Rex a vigorous belly rub. The dog's legs thumped wildly against the stage in pure joy, causing a few of the more nervous aliens to flinch at the noise. Yes, ladies, gentlemen, and all other species, Sarah continued as she stood back up. This is what thousands of years of careful breeding has led to. The perfect killing machine reduced to a drooling ball of fluff by a simple belly rub. A small, tentative laugh echoed from somewhere in the audience. Sarah allowed herself a tiny smile. Maybe this wasn't going to be such a disaster after all. Maybe this wouldn't be a complete disaster after all. Next up was Raj, who stepped forward confidently, carrying a small pet carrier. He cleared his throat dramatically. And now, he began with a flourish. Prepare yourselves for one of Earth's most efficient predators, a creature so fearsome, so deadly, that it's responsible for the extinction of entire species. The alien audience leaned in, eyes wide and appendages gripping their armrests. Raj paused just long enough to let the tension build, then opened the carrier. Out strutted Whiskers, a plump tabby cat who promptly sat down and began grooming herself, utterly unimpressed by her surroundings. Behold, Raj said solemnly, the mighty house cat. A ripple of confusion swept through the audience. Aliens exchanged puzzled looks, as if silently asking each other, is this a joke? Raj, clearly enjoying the moment, continued, I know what you're thinking. Surely this small, fluffy creature can't be as dangerous as you claim. And you'd be right, sort of. He reached down and scratched Whiskers behind the ears, causing her to purr loudly. The sudden noise made several aliens jump, their eyes widening in shock. You see, Raj explained, cats like Whiskers here are obligate carnivores. They're armed with razor-sharp claws, keen night vision, and lightning-fast reflexes. In the wild, their larger cousins are apex predators. But these little guys, they've achieved something even more impressive. They've convinced an entire species of supposedly intelligent primates to wait on them hand and foot. As if to emphasize her superiority, Whiskers chose that moment to flop onto her side, stretching luxuriously and fixing the audience with a look of utter disdain. Cats, Raj said with a grin, have mastered the art of making you feel like the biggest disappointment in the galaxy. It's a skill many of our politicians are still trying to perfect. This earned a genuine laugh from the audience, and the tension in the room noticeably eased. Next, Marina Volkov stepped up, a colorful bird perched proudly on her shoulder. And now, she announced, I present to you a living descendant of the dinosaurs, a creature with the ability to mimic human speech, solve complex puzzles, and, if my experience is anything to go by, wake you up at ungodly hours of the morning, demanding crackers. Polly, a bright scarlet macaw, turned her head toward the alien crowd with obvious curiosity. Marina gently scratched the bird's head, causing Polly to let out a satisfied squawk. This is Polly, a scarlet macaw, Marina explained. Birds like Polly are highly intelligent. They can learn to mimic human speech, recognize shapes and colors, and even perform simple math. They're also incredibly social, forming strong bonds with their human companions. As if on cue, Polly squawked again, Marina pretty. Polly want a cracker. The audience gasped, many of them leaning forward, fascinated by the talking bird. Marina's face flushed slightly as she hurried to explain. Yes, well, they learn to associate certain phrases with rewards. It's a form of operant conditioning, Marina continued. You see, they don't always understand the meaning of what they're saying. Polly, as if deciding that the audience needed another demonstration of her skills, suddenly squawked in a perfect imitation of Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'll be back. Marina's blush deepened, and sometimes they pick up phrases from movies. My roommate's a bit of a film buff. The alien audience was now thoroughly engaged. Many were chittering, clicking, or otherwise vocalizing their amusement and curiosity. Sarah, watching from the side, felt herself relax. Maybe this crazy idea wasn't going to be a complete disaster after all. Next up was Carlos Rodriguez, the team's security officer. He stepped forward with a long, sinuous creature dragged casually over his shoulders. With a mischievous grin, he began, "Friends, Romans, aliens, lend me your ears. Or, whatever auditory organs you might have. I present to you one of Earth's most misunderstood creatures, the snake." A collective gasp rippled through the audience, and several of the more nervous species edged cautiously toward the exits. Carlos, noticing their alarm, was quick to reassure them. Now, don't panic. This lovely lady here is Noodle, a ball python. She's non-venomous and far more interested in napping than causing trouble. To demonstrate, he carefully lifted Noodle from his shoulders, allowing the snake to coil comfortably around his arm. Snakes like Noodle are carnivorous reptiles. In the wild, they play a vital role in controlling rodent populations. But as pets, they're actually quite docile and low maintenance. Carlos gently stroked Noodle's scales, earning a flick of her tongue. Some humans find snakes scary, but once you get to know them, they're really quite charming. He paused, then added with a wink, "Plus, they give great hugs." This last comment earned a mixture of nervous laughter and intrigued murmurs from the audience. Carlos grinned, clearly enjoying the reaction. He said conversationally, there's an old Earth legend about a snake convincing the first humans to eat forbidden fruit, introducing sin into the world. Personally, I think it was just a clever snake who wanted to watch the chaos unfold. They're crafty like that. This bit of human mythology seemed to fascinate the alien audience, who immediately began excitedly discussing it among themselves. Sarah, watching from the wings, made a mental note to have a chat with Carlos later. Carlos made a mental note to talk to Emily later about avoiding any accidental interstellar religious debates. Last but certainly not least, Dr. Emily Wong stepped forward, cradling a clear container filled with soil. With a bright smile, she announced, "For something completely different. These little guys might not be your traditional pets, but they're some of the hardest workers on our planet." She held up the container, allowing the audience to see the soil moving slightly. "Meet my babies, Eisenia foetida, more commonly known as red wiggler worms." The alien reaction was a mix of confusion, disgust, and curiosity. Emily, undeterred, began her explanation with enthusiasm. "I know what you're thinking. Worms. Really? But hear me out. These little guys are absolutely crucial to Earth's ecosystems. They can consume half their body weight in organic matter every day, turning waste into nutrient-rich soil. They're nature's recyclers." She beamed at the container as if it held the secrets of the universe. "Plus, they're great listeners. They never interrupt, always attentive, unlike some of my ex-boyfriends." This comment earned a ripple of laughter from both the human team and those aliens who understood the concept of dating. Emily continued, her eyes shining with genuine excitement. Using worms to break down organic waste is becoming increasingly popular on Earth. It's an eco-friendly way to handle food scraps and create rich fertilizer for plants. In a way, these worms are helping us terraform our own planet, making it greener and more sustainable. She paused, looking out at the sea of alien faces. "I know they might not look like much, but these little guys represent something fundamental about life on Earth, and maybe life throughout the galaxy. They remind us that every creature, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, has a vital role in the greater ecosystem." There was a moment of silence as the aliens processed this. Then, surprisingly, a smattering of applause, or various alien approximations thereof, broke out. It seemed that Emily's passion had struck a chord with the audience. Sarah stepped forward to bring the presentation to a close. "So there you have it, folks. Dogs, cats, birds, snakes, and worms. Just a small sampling of the diverse life that Earth has to offer. I know we might not have delivered on the fierce and terrifying front, but I hope we've at least piqued your curiosity." She looked out over the audience, noting that the fear and trepidation from earlier had been replaced by genuine interest and, in many cases, amusement. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Maybe this hadn't been such a bad idea after all. I'm sure you have questions. Probably a lot of questions. Like, why would you keep predators in your homes? Or how have you not been overthrown by your feline overlords? Sarah paused, a playful glint in her eye. We'll do our best to answer them all. But first, would anyone like to meet our furry and wormy friends up close? There was a moment of hesitation. Then a small, timid-looking alien near the front raised what appeared to be a tentacle. "Excuse me," it said in a soft voice. "May I pet the dog?" Sarah's smile widened. "Of course," she said, gesturing for the alien to come closer. "Rex is very friendly. Just let him sniff your appendage first. It's how dogs say hello." The alien hesitantly approached, extending a tentacle towards Rex. The dog gently sniffed it before giving it a small lick. The alien let out a sound like tinkling bells, its species version of a giggle. "It's so soft," the alien exclaimed in wonder, gently patting Rex's head. And just like that, the floodgates opened. Aliens of all shapes and sizes began crowding around the stage, each eager to interact with the Earth animals. Whiskers found herself receiving more chin scratches than she'd ever had in her life, alternating between purring contentedly and giving her admirers looks of benevolent disdain. Polly delighted the crowd with her colorful feathers and vocal imitations. However, the humans had to quickly intervene when Polly started teaching some of the more impressionable aliens how to swear in multiple Earth languages. Even Noodle had a fan club forming, with braver aliens marveling at her smooth scales and gentle nature. Emily's worms, to her absolute delight, sparked a lively discussion about ecosystem management and sustainable waste practices. As the event stretched on, laughter and excited chatter filled the auditorium. The initial fear had given way to genuine curiosity and, in many cases, affection. Sarah found herself fielding questions left and right, her earlier sarcasm replaced by honest enthusiasm. "No, cats don't actually plot world domination. Well, not successfully anyway." She continued, "Yes, dogs really can learn to understand dozens of human words and commands. No, we can't understand their barks, not for lack of trying. Oh, and snakes don't actually unhinge their jaws. That's a common misconception. Their jaws are just very flexible. Bird intelligence. Oh, it varies by species, but some parrots have problem-solving skills comparable to a human toddler. Make of that what you will. And worm charming. Yes, that's a real thing. No, it doesn't involve any kind of mystical rituals." Sarah's enthusiasm was contagious, and the audience's fascination with Earth's diverse creatures continued to grow. As the event came to a close, Sarah couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. Maybe, just maybe, this cultural exchange had turned out to be a success after all. As the session drew to a close, the original announcer made his way back to the stage, looking slightly frazzled but undeniably impressed. "Well," he said, his voice filled with newfound respect, "I think it's safe to say that our Deathworld friends have surprised us once again. Who would have thought that creatures from such a harsh world could be so charming?" Sarah stepped forward, Rex trotting obediently at her heel. "That's the thing about Earth and its inhabitants," she said, unable to keep a hint of pride from her voice. "We're full of surprises. Life on our world has taught us and our animal friends to be tough, yes, but also to be adaptable, intelligent, and capable of forming deep bonds. Those are the real strengths we bring to the Galactic community." She paused, looking out over the now enthusiastic crowd. Plus, she added with a grin, "We're pretty good at turning deadly predators into cuddle buddies. It's a skill." The audience erupted in laughter and applause, with various alien equivalents thereof. As the human team prepared to leave the stage, they found themselves surrounded by eager aliens, all clamoring for more information about Earth's animals. "Do you have any more of these dogs and cats?" asked a tall, spindly alien with iridescent skin. "Oh, buddy," Carlos chuckled, "you have no idea. We've got dogs the size of your hand and dogs the size of small vehicles. We've got cats with no fur and cats with so much fur they look like walking cotton balls." The aliens' eyes, all 7 of them, widened in wonder. Fascinating. And they all coexist peacefully. The humans exchanged glances, trying not to laugh. "Well," Raj said diplomatically, "let's just say our pets have mastered the art of detente, usually." Meanwhile, a group of small amphibious aliens had cornered Emily, peppering her with questions about the worms. "But how do they move without appendages?" one burbled excitedly. Emily launched into an enthusiastic explanation of earthworm locomotion, complete with wiggling hand gestures that had her audience captivated. "And you say these creatures can regenerate parts of their bodies?" another alien asked, its gills fluttering in excitement. "Some species can," Emily nodded. "Cut an earthworm in half, and you might end up with two worms. They're like nature's very own Hydra." The aliens murmured in awe, and Emily found herself promising to send over some research papers on earthworm biology. She made a mental note to warn her colleagues back on Earth that they might be getting some interstellar peer reviews in the near future. On the other side of the stage, Marina was grappling with a rather persistent avian alien who seemed convinced that Polly must be a sentient being. "But it speaks," the alien insisted, its feathers ruffling in agitation. "Surely that indicates higher intelligence." Marina sighed, wondering how to explain the concept of mimicry to a species that apparently took all vocalizations at face value. "Polly is very smart," she began carefully, "but her speech is imitative, not." She was cut off as Polly suddenly squawked, "Polly want a lawyer." The alien's beak fell open in shock. "You see, it understands legal systems." Marina groaned internally. No, she's just repeating something she heard on TV. "Holly, honey, you're not helping." Seemingly enjoying the chaos, the parrot then proceeded to belt out the chorus of "Never Gonna Give You Up." The alien's eyes widened even further, and now it sings a ballad of eternal devotion. Truly, these parrots must be the secret rulers of your world. As Marina struggled to explain pop culture and internet memes to the increasingly confused alien, Sarah found herself cornered by a group of alien diplomats. Commander Chen, one of them, began its tentacles writhing in what Sarah had learned was a sign of intense curiosity. "We must admit we had reservations about this presentation," Chen began, "but you've certainly given us much to think about." Sarah nodded absently, scratching Rex behind the ears. "I'm glad to hear that. We hope to show a different side of Earth life, one that doesn't usually make it into the official reports." Another diplomat, a being that looked like a cross between a praying mantis and a redwood tree, clicked its mandibles thoughtfully. "Indeed, we had heard tales of Earth's harsh conditions and deadly fauna, but these creatures seem to embody a curious mix of ferocity and gentleness." "That's a pretty good description of Earth life in general," Sarah agreed. "And humans too, come to think of it. We've had to be tough to survive, but we've also learned the value of cooperation and companionship." The first diplomat's tentacles rippled in what Sarah recognized as the alien equivalent of a nod. "A most interesting philosophy. But tell us, Commander, how did your species come to form such close bonds with these other beings?" "Animals. Surely there must have been a period of conflict," the mantis tree alien remarked, its eyes widening. Sarah couldn't help but laugh. "Oh, there was conflict, all right, and still is in some parts of the world. But somewhere along the line, our ancestors looked at some of the most efficient predators on the planet and thought, I bet that would make a great roommate." She shook her head, still amazed at the audacity of her species. "Dogs were probably the first. They might have initially hung around human settlements to scavenge for food, but over time, we realized they were useful for hunting, protection, and companionship. Cats likely followed a similar path, though. If you asked them, they'd probably say they domesticated us." The mantis tree alien's eyes widened further. "Fascinating. And the others, the birds and the snakes?" "Ah, well, humans have a bit of a habit of looking at wild animals and thinking, I want one," Sarah admitted, a hint of embarrassment in her voice. "Not always our smartest trait, I'll admit, but it's led to some interesting relationships. Birds like Polly, their ancestors were probably first kept for their colorful feathers. Now they're beloved pets, known for their intelligence and personality. And the snakes?" the tentacled diplomat asked, a hint of nervousness in its voice. "And the snakes?" Sarah grinned. Would you believe me if I told you some humans keep them because they think they're cute? The diplomats exchanged glances, clearly trying to wrap their minds around the concept of finding a predator cute. Sarah decided to take pity on them. "Look," she said, her voice taking on a more serious tone. "I know Earth has a reputation out here as a death world, right? And sure, our planet can be dangerous, but it's also incredibly diverse and full of life that has found all sorts of ways to survive and thrive. Our relationships with animals like these," she gestured to Rex, who was now sprawled on his back enjoying a belly rub from a delighted alien child, "are a testament to that adaptability and the capacity for different species to not just coexist, but to form real bonds." The diplomats were silent for a moment, absorbing her words. Finally, the mantis tree alien spoke. "You have certainly given us much to consider, Commander. Perhaps we have been too quick to judge Earth and its inhabitants based on mere survival metrics." Sarah nodded, feeling a glimmer of hope. This was why she'd agreed to this crazy scheme in the first place, the chance to change perceptions and build understanding. "Tell me," the tentacled diplomat said, its appendages writhing with barely contained excitement, "would it be possible to arrange further cultural exchanges? Perhaps visits to Earth to see more of these pets in their natural habitats?" Sarah blinked momentarily, taken aback. I suppose that could be arranged. Yes, we'd need to clear it with the higher-ups, of course, but I don't see why not." As the diplomats excitedly discussed the possibilities among themselves, Sarah felt a surge of optimism. This crazy idea might just be making a real difference after all. Sarah found her gaze drawn back to her team. Raj was demonstrating to a group of fascinated aliens how cats purr, with Whiskers looking supremely smug about all the attention. Carlos had a line of brave souls waiting to touch Noodle's scales, each touch eliciting excited chitters or gasps. Marina was teaching a group of avian aliens how to whistle, with Polly enthusiastically joining in, creating a cacophony of mixed success. Emily had somehow set up an impromptu worm-petting zoo, with aliens of all shapes and sizes gently handling the worms, their faces or equivalent features, alight with wonder at the tiny creatures. As Sarah watched, she felt a warmth spreading through her chest. This wasn't at all how she'd expected the day to go when she'd first received that call from Admiral ZX Briggs. She'd expected fear, maybe disgust, possibly even hostility. Instead, she was witnessing the birth of dozens, maybe hundreds, of interspecies friendships. A small voice piped up from near her elbow. Sarah looked down to see the timid alien who had first asked to pet Rex. "I was wondering," it said hesitantly, "do you think I could maybe get a dog of my own?" Sarah felt her eyes widen. Well, that's not really up to me," she said carefully. "There are a lot of factors to consider. The environment on your home planet, your lifestyle, the specific needs of different dog breeds, not to mention the quarantine and adaptation periods that would be necessary for interplanetary pet adoption." The alien's face fell, quite literally. Its features seemed to droop towards the floor. Sarah felt a pang of guilt. She added quickly, "But I don't see why we couldn't look into setting up some kind of interstellar pet adoption program in the future. We'd need to do a lot of research and planning first to make sure it's safe and ethical for both the animals and the adoptive families." The alien's features perked up instantly, its eyes shining with hope. "Really? Oh, thank you. I promise I take very good care of it. I'd learn all about Earth and dogs and how to be a good pet parent." Sarah couldn't help but smile at the alien's enthusiasm. "You know what?" she said kindly. "Why don't you give me your contact information? If we do manage to set up a program like that, I'll make sure you're one of the first to know." As the excited alien scampered off to find something to write with, Sarah shook her head in amazement. Interstellar pet adoption. Now there was a concept she never thought she'd be considering when she joined the space program. But then again, that was the beauty of exploration, wasn't it? You never knew what new possibilities lay ahead. Connections you might forge, what new ideas might take root. Today was aliens petting dogs and cuddling cats. Tomorrow, who knew? Maybe Earth dogs would be herding alien livestock on distant planets. Maybe there'd be interstellar cat show competitions. Maybe Emily's worms would be revolutionizing waste management across the galaxy. The possibilities were as endless as the stars themselves. As the event finally began to wind down, Sarah gathered her team for a final huddle. "Well, folks," she said, looking at each of them in turn, "I think it's safe to say this was a success. Any thoughts?" Raj grinned, with whiskers draped around his shoulders like a furry scarf. "I think we just revolutionized Earth's image in the galactic community, all thanks to our furry, feathered, and wormy friends." Marina laughed, dodging as Polly tried to nibble her ear. "I'm just glad we didn't start any interplanetary incidents. Though I think Polly might have inadvertently taught some of the ambassadors how to swear in Russian. Sorry about that." Emily, still cradling her container of worms, beamed at the group. "I've been invited to give a lecture series on Earth ecosystems at the Galactic Science Academy. Can you believe it? All because of these little guys." She raised the container, earning a collective groan from her teammates. All right, Sarah chuckled, holding up her hands. "Let's not get ahead of ourselves. We've made a good impression, sure, but we've also opened up a whole new can of worms." She paused, glancing at Emily. "No offense to your babies." Emily just grinned, clearly too excited about her future lectures to be offended. "None taken. The point is," Sarah continued, "we've got a lot of work ahead of us. The aliens are fascinated now, but wait until they learn about some of Earth's less cuddly creatures. I don't think they're quite ready for the concept of honey badgers or Australia." She was cut off by a commotion near the exit. The team turned to see a group of aliens clustered around something, their voices raised in a mixture of alarm and fascination. "Oh no," Raj muttered. "Please tell me Whiskers didn't escape." But as they hurried over, they realized it wasn't Whiskers causing the stir. Instead, they found a small green creature sitting in the middle of the group, blinking up at the aliens with large, curious eyes. "Is that?" Carlos began, his eyes widening. "A gecko," Sarah finished, pinching the bridge of her nose. "How in the world did a gecko get here?" Marina sheepishly raised her hand. "That might be my fault. I think it's stowed away in Polly's travel cage. I noticed something in there earlier, but I thought I was just seeing things," the alien said, watching with a mixture of astonishment and delight as the gecko climbed up its leg. The gecko, seemingly unperturbed by all the attention, flicked its tongue out and began to scale the leg of a particularly tall alien. The alien let out a sound that could only be described as an interstellar squeal. "It defies gravity," the alien exclaimed, its multiple eyes wide with wonder as the gecko effortlessly climbed its body. "Not exactly." Raj began slipping into lecture mode. "You see, geckos have these amazing structures on their toe pads called seta, which allow them to adhere to almost any surface through van der Waals forces." He was interrupted by a chorus of ohs as the gecko reached the alien's shoulder and promptly fell asleep. Sarah couldn't help the smile tugging at her lips. "Well, I guess we're adding an impromptu gecko demonstration to our list of achievements today." As the team worked to gently remove the gecko from its new alien perch and the excited chatter around them grew, Sarah reflected on the day's events. They'd come expecting fear and suspicion. Instead, they'd found curiosity, wonder, and an unexpected openness to the strange creatures humans called pets. It was a reminder of why she'd joined the space program in the first place, not just to explore new worlds, but to build bridges between different species and cultures. Sure, there was a long way to go. Explaining the concept of pet rocks would be interesting, and she didn't even want to think about how they'd react to learning about Australia's wildlife. They'd made a start. They'd shown the galactic community a side of Earth they'd never seen before, not just as a death world that spawned tough, resilient species, but as a place of diversity, adaptability, and unexpected gentleness. As Sarah watched an alien child giggling as Rex gently licked its face, she felt a surge of pride. This was humanity at its best, taking the harsh world they'd evolved in and finding not just ways to survive, but to form connections, to care, to love. "All right, team," she said, turning back to her crew, "let's wrap this up. We've got reports to file, probably some diplomatic meetings to attend, and a gecko to find a home for." As they began to gather their things and their pets, the announcement system crackled to life. "Attention, all attendees," a voice boomed. Due to unprecedented demand, the Earth delegation's presentation on Deathworld pets will be extended for another 3 cycles. Additionally, we are pleased to announce the formation of an Interstellar Pet Appreciation Club. Sign-ups will be available in the main atrium. Sarah froze, then slowly turned to her team, her expression a mix of disbelief and resignation. Did we just accidentally start an interstellar pet craze? Raj grinned, scratching whiskers under the chin. Well, Commander, look at it this way. At least it's better than them thinking we're all dangerous maniacs, Sarah suggested with a chuckle. Exactly, Raj agreed with a broad smile. Here's to our new role as ambassadors for Earth's most adorable residents. Bloodthirsty barbarians, right? Raj asked with a grin. Yeah, Carlos chimed in, with Noodle contentedly draped around his shoulders. Now they just think we're crazy animal lovers who turn apex predators into cuddle buddies, which, let's be honest, is pretty accurate. Marina ducked as Polly made another attempt to nibble her ear. And I guess that's not such a bad thing, she said with a laugh. Emily, still clutching her container of worms, beamed at the group. Just think of the research opportunities, the cultural exchanges, the potential for galactic-wide composting initiatives. Sarah looked at her enthusiastic team and then out at the sea of excited aliens, still cooing over Rex and the newly discovered gecko. She thought about the mountain of paperwork this was going to generate, the inevitable diplomatic negotiations, and the logistical nightmare of potentially setting up an interstellar pet adoption program. But then she remembered the fear and suspicion in the aliens' eyes when they first walked on stage, and how quickly that had turned to wonder and affection. She thought about the timid alien child who now dreamed of having a dog of its own, and the avian ambassador excitedly discussing flight patterns with Polly. A slow smile spread across her face. You know what, she said, her voice filled with determination. Bring it on. If we're going to change the galaxy's perception of Earth one pet at a time, then that's exactly what we'll do. She straightened up, taking on a mock-serious tone. All right, team, new mission parameters. Raj, I want you working with the Galactic Science Academy on a xenobiology course for pet owners. Raj nodded eagerly, his mind already racing with lecture ideas. Got it. Marina, Sarah continued, you're in charge of setting up an interstellar choir of parrots and any aliens who want to learn Earth songs. Marina saluted with a grin. Consider it done. Carlos, Sarah said, you're our official snake misconceptions mythbuster. I want you dispelling every bad B-movie trope about snakes in the galaxy. Carlos gave a thumbs up, with Noodle mimicking the motion with her tail. On it. Emily, Sarah concluded, congratulations, you're now the head of the Galactic Composting Initiative. Try not to get too excited about spreading worms across the galaxy. Emily's eye sparkled with excitement. I'll do my best. As the team dispersed, ready to tackle their new roles, Sarah couldn't help but feel a surge of pride and excitement. The adventure was far from over, and if today was any indication, the future was brimming with possibilities. Stars. Emily squealed with delight, hugging her worm container close. This is amazing. Sarah knelt down to ruffle Rex's fur, smiling. I'll be coordinating with Galactic Command to set up the galaxy's first interspecies pet adoption program, because apparently that's a thing we do now. She stood up, looking at each member of her team in turn. Any questions? For a moment, there was silence. Then, from somewhere in the back of the group, a small voice piped up. Can we get a space hamster? The team burst into laughter, the sound mingling with the happy barks, meows, and slithers of their Earth pets, and the excited chatter of the aliens around them. As Sarah shook her head in amused exasperation, she couldn't help but think that this crazy, chaotic, wonderful moment was humanity at its finest, facing the unknown not with fear, but with open arms and a willingness to connect, to learn, to grow. And if that connection happened to come in the form of furry, feathered, or scaly companions, well, that was just fine by her. After all, in a universe full of wonders and terrors, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is offer a belly rub to something with sharp teeth, or extend a hand or tentacle, in friendship to a species from a world harsher than you can imagine. As the team prepared for their extended stay and the flood of questions that was sure to come, Sarah looked out at the sea of excited alien faces and grinned. The galaxy might not have been ready for Earth pets, but maybe, just maybe, that was exactly what it needed. Wow, what a journey! From shocked aliens to unexpected friendships, we've seen how introducing wild animals to a classroom can transform perceptions and build bridges across the stars. Did you ever think a classroom could become a stage for such intergalactic revelations? What do you think about the idea of Earth's wild animals changing the way the galaxy views humanity? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this cosmic adventure, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more incredible stories. Until next time, keep exploring and embracing the unexpected. Who knows what wonders await just beyond the stars?